Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Walking Dead. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, back in Alexandria, obviously a storm is hitting, and it's coming at the worst time when Alexandria's defenses are at its lowest. Obviously, like, a lot of, like, the houses and stuff like that aren't, like, the house that they're kind of buckled down in isn't fully prepared. Like, the door is about to cave in. They got to board up the windows, but sadly, because the storm is so strong and the walls are already like tattered, like they end up getting knocked down. There's a fire in the windmill, so that like some of the team gets divided up to go deal with like the walkers in the fire. Obviously, you have Connie signing up, which Kelly was like, "No, I don't want you going off on your own." And I thought what's interesting that she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go with Carol." And I think it's for her. It's like we haven't had time like since Connie's rescue to be like they probably like have some stuff to talk about because maybe she heard about, I don't know, maybe Connie has some feelings about everything. You know, maybe she just like once again, I'm sure that PTSD and everything from like the last episode didn't just disappear. I'm sure that's like still at the forefront. Was that last episode? Was it the episode before last? I blur so much together. But I'm assuming it's not just going to be a. I think no, that was definitely the episode beforehand. Then I definitely it was definitely the episode before. It was episode 6 if I remember correctly. But so who knows if they had any conversations? Obviously, Kelly wants to go. I wonder how does Magna feel about that? She went with Aaron, but still, I'm curious. Like, is there still some budding issues there? Maybe, maybe not. But while they're doing that, everyone else is staying back at the house. Like Virgil wants to come along, but they suggested that he stay here and hold down the fort and help out because I mean he's still pretty banged up from episode 6. So. But the walkers are, like, pounding at the door. Obviously, you have Judith wanting to help, but they tell her to stay here because it's like she can keep the other kids safe and keep them, like, okay and not as afraid. And even Gracie being like, I wish I was like you, not afraid. But she's like, I'm afraid. I'm afraid. Like, don't think I'm not, but I just know how to channel my fear because of my mom, use it, like, how fear can make you run faster, just, it can make you a better fighter. And then, obviously Gracie, obviously Lydia, God, I keep saying Lydia, Judith, I'm saying like every other name but the right name, Judith, and even RJ, miss their mom, but I thought it was kind of a neat line from Virgil being like, your mom would be so proud of you, and it's like, she is here with you, like, in the way you carry your sword, the way you're trying to ease the other children's minds so they're not as afraid. Like, that's your mom. She's with you, just like, because he doesn't know where she is, but he's like, wherever she is, you're with her too, I think that's kind of a nice sentiment. I am curious to know in the long run what they are planning. I haven't read into it. Obviously, there's still, like, the Walking Dead movies with Rick. I don't know if Michonne's going to pop up in those, like, maybe to a small degree or something. I don't know if, like, from what I know Denai left the show, but I don't know if she ever, like, plans to, like, make some, like, cameo appearances in the movies just to kind of tie those stories together and stuff like that, because that's what she's doing. She's helping people, but also, like, she's going out there to find Rick because she knows Rick's still out there. So we'll see how that kind of plays out in the future. Like I said, the information is most likely out there. I just haven't looked into it because I kind of don't want to know. So I'll just kind of keep that floating in the back of my mind, wondering. It's more of a rhetorical question, but if someone ends up giving me an action, it's fine. But I'd rather not know. But if someone gives, like I said, if someone does give me information, I'm not going to be pissed about it. But regardless, but obviously the walkers start breaking through, and it's like they can't call anyone back because if they do, that's just going to take them off of the task that they're supposed to be doing. So Rosita's like, all right, open up the door, and then like I think just Judith being stunned, everyone being stunned, it just like Rosita going to work, like swinging home runs and like with the brass knuckle punches at the same time. It's like, yo, got to work, and then knocking on the door, coming back, and it's like, all right, let's stay away from the windows. And Judith's just kind of nodding with her mouth open, like, okay. I was like, wow, I like that Rosita got her time, because it's like, I think that like, I mean, Rosita's always been a badass, but I think that extra badass layer of like, yeah, like, I gotta look after everyone, including my child. So, I think that kicked, like, that protective mode just like kicked up a notch in that moment. But the whole plan is like to get everybody upstairs so that like, yeah, they can flood the bottom floor, but at least we can like, can kind of funnel them, I think, type of situation. But Judith, I was about to call, I don't know why because I don't know why I keep, when I think of Judith, I want to say Lydia for some reason. I don't know why. Judith, ended up following Gracie because Gracie went downstairs to like get a weapon. But I was like, oh, that's not good that there's flooding in the basement. Granted, it won't be too much of an issue for like the others, but the fact is Gracie and Judith got stuck downstairs, and now that's the problem. It's like if the walkers aren't an issue, that basement is going to flood, and that's going to be an issue. So hopefully the wall gets patched in enough that like not all the walkers are pouring in, because the fire itself was actually attracting them too. So hopefully like the people upstairs realize, oh, Gracie and Lydia aren't here. Okay. See, I keep doing it again. I'm so sorry. I don't know why when I think Judith, Lydia's the first name that comes to my mind. I don't know why. I know who Lydia is, but for whatever reason, I just want to say Lydia first rather than Judith. I don't know why that comes more naturally to me than Judith. Judith and Gracie, like, and once people notice they're going, like, maybe can, like, cut down some walkers and, you know, get to them in time before, like, things get bad. So interesting because, like, Alicia and Charlie were in that very same situation back in season 4, was that? Yeah, that was in season 4. Kind of stuck in a basement as the water's rising. So, once again, there's, like, part of me wonders, like, do they intentionally parallel each other in certain regards, or it just kind of, like, because I'm sure it's like a lot of the same teams working on the shows. Well, also like maybe there's some crossover, at least there's some talks of like thematically they want to kind of do similar things. I don't know, it just makes me think, because I was like, yeah, it legitimately reminds me of like Alicia and Charlie being in a very similar situation a few seasons back. But regardless, so we got that side of things, and then on the other side of things, we got the whole situation with Pope. We've got Maggie and the others walking amongst the dead. And I think it presents such an interesting thing. Like, obviously them noticing, like, oh, look at the walkers, they're swirling like that. It's like, they're kind of not thinking much of it, but Pope's the one being like, no, there's definitely something here. He's kind of like, there's definitely something that was going on here, which I think is so interesting because it makes it such a unique The Walking Dead thing. Because the Whisperers, like, unless you're going up against the Whisperers, you wouldn't even know about corralling, like, a tactic like that. Like, you know, no one would, like, Rick wouldn't know what to do against that, wouldn't even recognize it. Michonne would have some idea of, like, yeah, I gotta, you know, watch out for something. Like, no one else knows to look out for that. Because there's not many groups out there in this universe doing that except for the Whisperers. And anyone that ever witnessed those tactics are most likely dead except for, like, Alexandria and stuff like that. They're the only, well, like that, you know, Alexandria, the Kingdom, Hilltop, like, people, like, they're the ones who definitely know, like, what's what. So obviously, so Daryl sees that, and he like, oh, he knows what's what. He's like, oh, Maggie and them must be like using some whisperer tactics, and because it's so unique to this show that it's like you won't see anyone in Fear the Walking Dead do that. You won't see anyone in World Beyond do that because it's, and I think that's such a unique thing because it's also like, right, using the tactics of your enemies. And I never even brought it up last episode, but it's got to be even harder for Maggie knowing like Hilltop fell because of people using this very tactic. I mean, we do have the remnants of the Whisperer still alive, but still, like, you know, I don't see them going off teaching anyone this, and you know, so. And it helps that they have Negan, someone who learned it specifically, but it's like, I don't know if Lydia is going to be one teaching the rest of the people that. Probably not. I mean, because also that'd probably be a whole triggering thing for Connie, but also, well, mainly just being like caught in that many hordes and stuff like that. But also, probably Lydia won't do it because that's not who she is anymore, and it'd probably make her feel too much like her mom. So like, she'd probably want to like distance herself from all that. Like, she hasn't really done it since, what was that, the like episode 16 of season 10, like when she went to get Carol so that Carol doesn't end up killing herself. Like, that's probably like the last time Lydia's kind of even like touched that side of things, maybe. But you know, we'll have to wait and see if they decide to do anything on that front. But like I said, it presents such an interesting thing. But like, you can tell Pope, like, it's because of Pope's paranoia, but maybe it's just also like right, maybe it's just his tactical mind being like, there's too much of a coincidence of this happening, so he believes it's his enemy. And I think that's so fascinating too, that like Maggie's like, oh, his arch nemesis. It's like, bring her to me. It's like, you can feel the venom in it. It's like, oh, my enemy. It's like, dude. I guess because for him, he feels like he's chosen by God. So like for her, she's an enemy of God if she's against me type of situation. I don't know. But Daryl's like, he wanted to be like, hey, I can go out there and distract him. I'm curious what Daryl would have done, like, if he was able to go out there to try and pull them away. But it's like, or was he hoping that Pope would send someone else? I don't know. He probably would have regrouped with the others and be like, all right, I'm going to lead the walkers away. This is how you get in here. Y'all, like, I'll use this as an opportunity. I don't know. It still works out in the end because of what they did, but still. That poor bastard, he just thinks he's so hot, hot shit, because he's like, yeah, I got this, come on. And then, like, the others kind of come by and stab him, and he gets fed to the walkers. So it's like, yep, didn't see that coming. But it turns out Pope did. He's like, oh, no. And she's amongst them. It's like, wait, what? It's like, and for Leah, it's like, wait, you sent him out there knowing that? It's like, what was he, bait? And it's like, he was a soldier, and because of his sacrifice, we know where our enemy is. And for Leah, she doesn't like that. It's like, she doesn't like just, and that's the thing. Leah's done a lot of stuff she's probably not, no, she's definitely done stuff she's not happy about and proud of, but the fact is, like, that's why she let that father and son go last episode, because that humanity is starting to peek back through, like, all that time she, like, maybe that time she spent with, Daryl in that shack, which you can also parallel that to, like, Dory Jr. and John Dory Jr. and June. Like, there's a parallel to that as well. Like, man, it's like I said, it feels so interesting that I think they do, like, not that that's a bad thing, because, like, there's a video game series I won't shut up about that does a really interesting thing. Like, I mean, well, a lot of games, like, the Kingdom Hearts series does a lot of paralleling like that in certain regards. I won't get into it, but there's a video game series I love called the Trails series. There's a lot of, like, once you kind of peek at the other games and realize, like, oh, there's a lot of homages and parallels to, like, other games. Like, it's just an interesting, like device I find fascinating. So, like, it's not like I'm nitpicking, I just find it interesting, like, because I was like, I don't think that clicked in my head with the Leah episode originally, with the bonus episode. I don't think it clicked in my head. I'm trying to remember, had I caught, like, I think I had watched it, I don't know if I'd even gotten to at that point in Fear the Walking Dead, at that point those were airing. Maybe not, I don't remember. So that might be why it didn't click in my head at that point. But, nevertheless, it is the situation of, obviously, Pope's still not 100% sure about Daryl, because for him, it's like Leah's questioning him so much about all this. It's like, you used to not do that, but ever since your boyfriend showed up, you've been different. And it's like, now he doesn't know whether to trust Daryl or not, because there's a part of him that trusts him, but part of him that doesn't. But that's also just because his general paranoia. But he's also like, yeah, you remind me of my dog Tick. He was a rescue, but because of that, like, he was vicious. Like, he always gave me that same look. Like, he might want to lick me, or he might want to bite my hand off. And I love that line from Daryl. It's like, but don't worry, I'm not going to lick you. And Pope was like, I like you. I like that. All right. Now just don't bite my hand off. And I was like, ha, 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 ha. So I thought that was fascinating, back and forth between them. But you can also tell, because Daryl wanted to bring it up to Leah last episode. He wants to be honest with her. He wants to tell her, like, what's what. But he can't quite, because he's not 100% sure if he can trust her either. So he does give Maggie and Gabriel an opening. He ends up killing the guard. The poor guy, because I think that's the same guy he gave, like, cigarettes to last episode, gives him one this episode. It's like, shoot, kills him. It's like, I mean, to be fair, he's got no affiliation to this group. It's like, you're trying to harm the people I care about. You're trying to harm my family, so I don't give a fuck about you. And so the only person in this group he cares about is Leah. So if he want, like, truth be told is, he would be fine with killing literally everyone here except for her. So, and I was kind of thinking that's kind of how this was going to go, but we'll get to it. So Maggie and Gabriel are able to get in there, and Maggie's sitting Gabriel after something. I'm like, what? And I guess it's like, oh, I guess it's that sniper rifle he's, like, popping off later in the episode and saves Maggie with. But obviously Daryl, like, cracks open the door to, like, where the food is, and obviously he tried to make it seem like, oh yeah, I was just getting my bow ready, because at the time, like, there's all those explosions, so they're like, oh yeah, that's going to deal with the walkers. Sadly, like, Elijah and Negan are on the forefront of that. Like, they have to be at that to kind of lead the horde that way. So they do get hit with some of the shrapnel. So, but other than that, they do keep going. So, I mean, because if they make too much sudden movement, it'll kind of destroy the illusion, but also, like, it'll turn the walkers against them, but it'll also point them out to be like, oh, like, they're acting a little differently, like, they're full-blown running, and the whole illusion will be broken, so the element of surprise will be taken from them, so they kind of they have no choice but to keep going. But eventually they pull out, what was the Hoacha, which is very much reminds me kind of 300 in that, oh, their arrows will blot out the sun. Definitely kind of has that feel to it. But then you have Daryl kind of opening up to her, being like, hey, I need to tell you something. The people down there, they're my family. Because Pope kept asking him about, like, Maggie, being like, what can you tell me about her? He's like, oh, she's a good shot. So if you're looking, I'd say, like, that's probably how Wells got taken up. I'd have my eyes up at the trees or something, because she's good with a bow. And just like, oh, tree, huh? So like I said, still not 100% believing him. But obviously Leah's like, you lied to me. And it's like, for him, it's like, I'll do whatever it takes to protect my family. All I'm asking is you to help me do it. Like, all those people, they're good people, so we don't have to do this. But when Pope shows up, she doesn't say anything. I was actually kind of curious whether she was going to or not, but she's like, Pope's like, oh, what were you two talking about? She's like, family. He's like, yeah, family's the most important thing. And so she's trying to talk him down about, like, right. Especially, but the conversation changes the moment Pope is like, she's not saying anything, but then Pope was like, all right, like, Maggie ended up using the car to, like, break down the barrier, so, like, a whole bunch of them start pouring in. And Pope wants to use Awacha, and Leo's like, no, we can't do that, because if we do that, our own people will be here. He's like, well, who cares? Their sacrifice would be necessary, because it's like, you know, because even Daryl had asked her, like, do you believe in the whole, like, Pope thing of him saying, like, God chose us? And she's like, why? He's like, I'm just asking. Because for him, he needed to know if she's all about this, then he, at that moment, felt like he couldn't trust her. Like, for her, it's like, he gave us everything when we had nothing, so it doesn't matter whether I believe in it or not, you know? And there were certain parts of that conversation almost made me seem like she knew Daryl was helping them. So maybe she knew on some level and just did. I mean, because she even says it later on, like, Carver, like, warned me about you, and I didn't listen because I wanted so desperately to trust you because of what they had. Because they also talked about, like, yeah, like, what if we had never left that chat? Do you ever think about that? And for Daryl, he does. But also, it's like, if he had never left there, he wouldn't have been there for his family when they needed him most, like, during this whole, like, eventually when the Whisperers will be, you know, presented. So it's like, there's give and take with it. Like, there's, you know. But, ultimately, it's for him. And I think this spoke volumes, for Leah, because it was kind of like, he was like, it will be up to God to decide. It's up to me to decide. So Pope was kind of making it like, yeah, before, like, his craziness, like, was kind of religious based, but he was also making it seem like, I guess because for him it's like, God chose me, so, like, what I say goes. Because if I make the decision and I was chosen by God, then God, like, co-signs everything that I do. But he kind of made it about him. It's like, no, I'm the one that gets to decide how this all plays out. I know Elijah wanted to kill him. I mean, maybe there's someone else. Maybe it's like Carver, but I'd assumed it was Pope that he wanted dead. But it's actually Leah that kills him. I was almost thinking it was going to be Daryl, but Daryl's trying to tell her, like, oh, come on, let's go. But for her, she can't leave. It's like, yeah, like, Pope was a madman. He wanted war. He lost sight of what was important, and that's family, and she won't. And it's like, yeah, Daryl wants to protect his family, but she's got to protect hers as well. So it's like, you know, they're on opposite sides of things. Because regardless, because he was thinking, like, right, we can go off and be together and everything. And I thought that might be where things kind of go, and I thought that'd be complicated. But it's like, nope, because at the end of the day, it's like, this is her family. Like, yeah, Pope was an issue, but that doesn't change my relation to these people. They're like, they are my family. I've got their six just like they've got mine. So she says, like, oh, Daryl killed Pope. He's not one of us. And she lets Daryl go. But it's like, right. Carver's like, we should have killed him. It's like, yeah, whatever. We're going to close off the gates and then kill everything inside. Maggie and Negan are there, and, you know, in the mix of everything. And then obviously everyone gets called back because Leah would. That was the whole thing. Like, Pope didn't want to, like, pull the others back because he figured it would warn, like, her amongst them. And it's like, you're being pulled back. but why? And then the arrows come flying at the very end. So that was kind of fascinating. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what the aftermath of that looks like. Hopefully they're able to get shelter. Doesn't seem like Daryl was able to get there in time. I don't know if he figured, I guess he didn't really think that, like, she would use that weapon. Like, I mean, granted, hopefully he has enough time to get, like, you know, Maggie and Negan and, you know, potentially, Elijah could, like, duck out of the way enough to kind of, but also they got to make sure they don't get pinched in. They've got to make sure they get out, because they also have to get out with the food too, so that's the whole thing. So this might not be over. It might be a situation of, like, they're kind of stuck in there and they have to go against them, and, like, Daryl might in the end have to kill Leah regardless. It might be a thing of let's go our separate ways, but to be fair, it's not just about the food either. Maggie was saying, like, let's end this, get the food and bounce. So, like, she still wants them all dead. So I'm curious as, like, because Gabriel let one of them live. So I'm curious if Gabriel and Daryl will be the factors to try to be like, no, let's not do this. We're not armed enough. And then eventually maybe he brings up the fact is that one of them is someone he cares about. So let's just go. But it's like, for Maggie, it's like, I can't let these people live. And I don't, because Leah isn't about war. Like, that was all Pope's thing. So maybe the others might try to convince her to still go after him. But it's like, no, let's just live our lives and just move on. Like, you know, we got this place. Hopefully, well, it depends on if Maggie and them steal a lot of that food or not, because that'll probably instigate stuff of like, no, you're not leaving here with ours. That's our spoils of war. You're not taking it. So that could easily still turn into a bloodbath situation next time. So we'll have to wait and see. I didn't realize, first and foremost, I knew the show would go on a break. I just wasn't expecting it this soon, but that's also my mistake because I was thinking they were going to, like, I guess it makes sense they wouldn't be airing all three at once, because Fear the Walking Dead does start next week, so it makes sense. But, yeah, because, like, I think they're going to because I know there's already a trailer out for, part 2 or 11B. I haven't watched it. I don't plan to, because, like, I want to, like, go into this knowing it's all possible, but I'm blanking on a date. It's in February. It usually always ends up being the date that they come back for the second half of the season. But I forgot. Like, I always flip the number in my head trying to remember. It's like 22 or 24. It's like, no, it's 24 episodes. I'm thinking 22 because of last season. But because of that, this season is most likely going to get, like, sliced into thirds, which is so interesting. Because technically, there was 10A, 10B, and 10C because of the 6 bonus episodes. So I think they're going to do the same thing in this. So there's going to be an 11A, 11B, and 11C. So probably, like, when, like, the second part of the season premieres, there's probably going to be, like, a second break. And then we'll probably, like, get probably, like, the rest of the season maybe later that spring/summer. Maybe. I don't know. Because it'll probably line up with, like, Fear the Walking Dead probably taking its break. It's probably when, like, the second... I don't know. I'm curious to see how that all, like, ultimately lines. Because there's probably going to be a break even after, like, Fear the Walking Dead, like, finishes its first half. There'll probably still be a break, and then The Walking Dead will come back, and maybe The Walking Dead and Fear will kind of coincide in certain points, you know, because by then, I'd assume, like, because I doubt there, because I'd assume, like, World Beyond is 10 episodes, like season 1 was. I have to look into it. I haven't, because I didn't look into whether or not the season's going to be divided like this, but it makes the most sense if there's 24, like, each section, each part, A, B, and C are going to be, like, 8 episodes each. It makes sense. So it didn't correlate because I was thinking, like, they were going to evenly divide it, because they've always done a part A and part B, so I thought it was going to be an even 12 split, but it's like, no, like, it's 8 across 3 parts of the season. So I was like, okay. But I'm excited to see where things take us going forward. Left us on a cliffhanger, so it's definitely going to be interesting when the show returns in February. I'm already blanking on the date. I went in, like, the 22nd. Whatever the case may be, I'll correct it in the comments down below. But I'm excited to see where all this ends up taking us. Obviously, I'm also excited to check out Fear when it comes back next week. So that's definitely going to be exciting. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.